Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
All right, let's take it from the top again. Places. Action.
Well, let's see. We have on the bags, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
That's what I want to find out.
I say who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Are you the manager?
Yes.
You going to be the coach, too?
Yes.
And you know the fellow's name?
Well, I should.
Well, then who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who?
Yes.
Join us for another voyage back in time on Classic Radio Rewind. From adventures to westerns, from comedy to sci-fi, this is your ticket to Theater of the Mind. Without any further ado, here's your host for Classic Radio Rewind, Barry Slinker.
Thank you, Dex Rowe, and I welcome you to another edition of a great old-time radio podcast we call Classic Radio Rewind. I'm Barry Slinker, and you will be joining me for the next 2 hours as we delve into more from the golden age of radio. This week, we will hear from Cloak and Dagger from 1950, followed by the Bird's Eye Open House Show from 1945, and ending this week's podcast is The Witch's Tale from 1934. But starting us off this week is an episode from The Adventures of Frank Race. In this episode, Race is hired to investigate a series of mysterious airplane crashes that have been plaguing a small airline company. So from June 19th, 1949, this is The Adventures of Frank Race in the Airborne Adventure.
The Adventures of Frank Race, starring Tom Collins. The war changed many things, the face of the earth and the people on it. Before the war, Frank Race worked as an attorney, but he traded his law books for the Cloak and Dagger of the OSS. And when it was over, his former life was over too. Adventure had become his business. The Adventures of Frank Race. And now we join Frank Race for the Airborne Adventure.
At the wheel of a taxi, Mark Donovan's idea of safety is to miss an oncoming truck by the depth of a paint job. In any kind of trouble, he's a lion, particularly with an end wrench in his hand. But when it comes to flying, he exudes about as much verve as a serving of spinach. The moment we become airborne, he shrivels, remaining the glum introvert until we sight the ground upon which we expect to land. So now, coming into San Francisco on the China Clipper, I watched him loosen up for the first time since we took off.
Look at that pretty pavement, that beautiful grass, that lovely mud. In a few minutes, I will be able to drop flat on my face and kiss some of it.
A message for you, Mr. Race.
Oh, thank you.
Probably another case. Well, I ain't gonna mind spending a little time in Frisco.
Now, listen to this, Mark. Important foreign assignment necessitates your taking off for Europe within the next 8 hours.
Oh.
Contact me as soon as you land. Layton International Indemnity.
Oh, mother come rub it. I ain't got a chance.
The personality of James Layton was a lot like that of the city in which he lived. Poised, cultured, friendly. It was the first time we'd ever met.
Sit down, Race. Cigarette?
Thanks.
We're insuring the delivery of a set of plans for $1 million.
Must be some plans.
Drawings for a new type of plane. They're scheduled to be carried from Trieste to London, from London to New York.
By courier?
Right. And you will be the courier.
My fee's going to seem like a lot of money for a messenger boy.
We'll consider it a sound investment. We want those plans delivered. And now I'd like you to know Mrs. Jefferson. She's head of the aircraft company that bought the policy. Let's step into this other office. She's waiting to meet you.
Mrs. Jefferson must have been about 60. She was big, had a face that reminded me of an evaporated apple, and wore clothes that would have served better as paint rags. I liked her at once.
Glad to have you in on this race. Did you tell him about it, Layden?
Only about the plans and the fact that we want them delivered.
Know anything about flying, Race?
He's a pilot, Mrs. Jefferson. I noticed that on his file.
Good. As a pilot, what would you say is needed most to develop private flying in this country on a mass production basis?
A thoroughly safe family plane that'll sell for $1,000.
Exactly. Up to now, it has been considered an impossibility, but not any longer. My company has found just such a plane. A non-spinnable four-passenger job that'll do 150 miles an hour at 8,000 feet. Just bought the plans for it.
And you could build it to price?
Definitely.
Then you'll revolutionize flying.
That's our aim. That and the profit that'll go with it.
I can't help being curious about one thing.
What's that?
Well, Trieste seems an odd place to be finding aircraft designs.
No, we didn't find them there, Race. We found them in Budapest. But other parties seem to want them as much as we do. Getting them far as Trieste costs 3 lives. That's why we finally thought of insurance. The plans are hidden now, and safe. When they start traveling again, it's going to be another story.
You see, Race, your fee isn't going to seem excessive after all.
Mrs. Jefferson and I left Layden's office together. She had a car waiting and insisted on giving me a lift.
You'll fly to New York, and from there to Trieste. I'll meet you later in London, where I'll be using the name Allison for reasons of security. Going to give you a New York address. You'll find a man there who'll supply you with plane reservations and information about your destination to Trieste. Hasn't been transmitted to me, also for reasons of security. Now, why don't you have dinner with me? You have 5 hours yet before you leave.
Well, I'd enjoy that, Mrs. Jefferson, but I have a friend.
If it's a woman, the best of luck. If it's a man, have him join us. I have just stolen a cook who can do lobster thermidor in a manner...
Say no more. For dinner, you're having a pair of male guests. We stopped for a few minutes while I phoned Mark. Then we drove to a brownstone front that had the look of a dowager sure of her position in life. Mrs. Jefferson rang the bell, but instead of a butler answering the door, it was opened by a man gripping a pistol. He was dressed conservatively, in a well-cut suit. But if he had any interest in public relations, his attitude didn't indicate it.
Come on in. Just don't make no phony moves, either of you, or I'll slap you clear out of shape, which might be an improvement for you, sister.
All right, you don't have to be so obnoxious about it.
Lippy dames. How I love lippy dames. Especially battle axes like you. Go on, move.
Oh!
I gave her a push that sent her reeling, and treated me to 1 inch of pistol barrel between my ribs. A stab that left me thoroughly inarticulate for the moment. In the living room sat 2 more of them. One was an ordinary strong-arm boy. The other could have been a businessman. He looked smooth enough to sell underwater lots by mail.
Nicely done, Venner. Move them away from the door. Charlie, go and take care of that chauffeur and then stay out front and keep your eyes open.
Don't get the idea that you'll pry anything out of me. You won't.
I wouldn't make up my mind so definitely if I were you. We've ways and means, you know. Very convincing ways and means.
You wouldn't dare.
Oh, wouldn't we? Venner, take over.
Vanner pulled several neckties from my pocket. Whirling Mrs. Jefferson around by the shoulder, he grabbed her arms, twisted them behind her, began lacing her wrists together. For an instant, this put him between me and the pistol held by Lanford. I stepped in and shoved Venner toward Lanford. It did no good. Lanford simply sidestepped and...
That was a silly move, Race. My reflexes are a bit too quick for that sort of thing.
I'm gonna kick his teeth out for poking me like that. See?
That's enough, Venner. Let's concentrate on the lady.
I'd managed to take Lanford's pistol slap on the top side of my head, and I've absorbed kicks before. But for the moment, I couldn't have qualified as a gay and laughing boy. Nevertheless, I had to get up. I had to get up because of what they were about to do to the lady of the house.
Hey, she's trussed up like a sack of spuds.
All right. Here's a cigarette. You'll notice that it's lighted, Mrs. Jefferson. Now, if you're still determined to be stubborn...
Yes, Charlie. Must be trouble.
What's he trying to say?
Cops. He says it's cops.
We'll go out the window.
What about the dame?
Never mind. Come on.
Race, get me free of these things, will you?
Where are you, Race?
In here.
Who on earth is that?
The other man who came to dinner.
Hey, you all right, Race?
Yeah, I will be. Now, how did you spot this setup, Mark?
Oh, I got hep when I saw that creep patrolling out in front. So I went and I called the cops. Can you imagine me calling the cops?
The act of a solid tax-paying citizen.
Hey, when do we eat?
Here, Race, hold this compact while I tidy myself. And as for you, Mark, you'll dine tonight. That I promise. You'll dine, and in style.
Mark and I landed at LaGuardia Field just before 8 o'clock the next morning. I left him drinking coffee while I caught a cab for my New York rendezvous. This turned out to be a 3-story walk-up, the look of which caused me to check the address I'd given the cabbie. He'd hit it on the nose, so I got out and went in. I could detect no sound from the other side of the door, but I tried again. That hallway had all the fragrance of a flop house on a hot night, and I was anxious to click or get going.
What do you want?
I'm looking for a man named Rogers.
He's not here at the moment.
If you don't mind, I'll come in and wait for him.
He may not be back for some time.
After that hallway, the room actually seemed fresh. Although this may have been an illusion created by the girl's presence. She had the equipment to do that to any room, and to any man. She held my eyes to such an extent that she almost had the door open before I realized it. Yeah, wait a second. Where do you think you're going?
I was going to leave. You object?
This room's been pulled apart. Did you have anything to do with it?
Possibly.
Close the door.
A woman always resents that, you know.
What?
A man throwing his weight around.
Sometimes a man has to. It's his only weapon.
Who are you?
The name's Race. Frank Race. How about you?
I'm Anna Marainik.
Viennese?
Hungarian.
Not exactly. Not with that accent.
I lived in London all during the war with my brother. We were refugees. It is possible that my way of speaking was affected by being in contact with so many other accents.
Well, don't misunderstand me. I'll buy your way of speaking anytime. No use walking around each other like a couple of club fighters, is there?
No use at all.
I'd moved close to her, almost without realizing it. Now I took her in my arms, encountering no resistance. And her lips were soft, warm against mine. Finally, still holding her shoulders, I drew back to look at her. She smiled at me, spoke gently.
Race.
Yes?
If you look down, you'd see in my hand a pistol. An automatic that is pointed right at your stomach.
Indeed, I do see it. Indeed, I do.
So you are going to back away, and when I open the door and leave, you are going to make no attempt to stop me. Is it understood?
Perfectly. Yeah, but you might do one thing for me.
What is that?
You might give me your telephone number.
You'll find it in the book.
Well, after that embrace, getting my thoughts back on business was tougher than rolling out of a warm bed into a cold tub. But I made the switch. There was another door besides the one to the hall, a door partly ajar. I pushed my way past it into another room, and there was a man sitting in a chair, his arms thrown wide, his legs spread as if to keep him from toppling to the floor. A bullet had entered his mouth. I didn't need a look to know what the back of his head had looked like. It's probably my man Rogers. So gingerly, I went through his clothes, came up with a wallet. I just opened it when a noise at the door clutched my attention. A uniformed cop stood there, engrossed in drawing a bead on my head with his pistol.
We'll return to the adventures of Frank Race in just about 1 minute. And now, back to the adventures of Frank Race.
I was in a jam. No doubt about it. When you're caught going through the wallet of a man who's just been shot to death, there isn't much you can say that'll sound convincing. So I just sat tight until the plainclothes squad arrived.
All right, what goes on here?
I needed just one look at that Irish map to know that I was getting a break. Fat and moon-faced, with the eyes of a lethargic Eskimo. Dan Manson operated as a detective lieutenant on the homicide detail.
Fine thing. Doubleheader at the stadium, and I get yanks for a deal like this. Hello, Reyes.
The heck with the stadium. Tell this patrolman I'm a law-abiding citizen, will you?
You mean you're the suspect here? Well, what do you know? Can't a guy find a chair in this laundry? No, who messed it up like this?
Might have been the girl who was here when I arrived.
Yeah?
Dan, I got to leave for Europe sometime today, so naturally I wouldn't want to be tied up with this business.
Well, don't give me that. You're going to be our #1 material witness.
No, I'll be around for the inquest and give you my word.
I don't know about
Well, the number you want right now is that girl.
Well, you say there was a dame here. How do I know you're leveling?
He was going to hold me unless I came up with something. So I reached into a pocket and produced a compact entrusted to me the night before by Mrs. Jefferson, and forgotten by both of us. I said, here, she left this. You'll find fingerprints all over it.
Yeah, including yours. How old a dame?
Oh, 25 maybe. Beautiful, too. You'll have your smiling Irish face all over the front pages, along with her legs.
Well, all right, Frank. But I'll have to have your word that you'll show up for the inquest.
I'll give you my word in the name of every place I expect to be for the next few days.
Well, here we are again, flying. I'm up in the air so much lately, I'm beginning to feel like a pigeon.
You'll get used to it.
Not me. I'll never get used to any part of flying. It just ain't natural.
Well, possibly that's the answer. If you knew why it is that a plane flies, you might be more relaxed about it. Sit back, boy, while I brief you on the principles of flight.
All right. I just as soon settle for a good stiff drink.
Trieste, city of many nationalities, port of intrigue. Mark and I put up at a hotel called the Vittorio. I'd cabled Mrs. Jefferson about the death of Rogers, so we settled ourselves to await developments. On the afternoon of the third day, Mrs. Jefferson walked in on us, accompanied by an elderly man who projected the impression of a hen on hot bricks.
Dr. Tender is an aeronautical engineer. He designed our plane.
Yes, I designed it, but I have no desire to be responsible for the delivery of the plans to your country. I would much rather you took charge, Mr. Race.
It's all right with me. When do I take over?
We'll bring the plans here sometime this evening.
By 9 o'clock, Mark and I had become restless and hungry. Deciding they could wait for us if they arrived while we were absent, we started out for a bite to eat. But in the lobby, the sight of a girl talking to the night clerk stopped me short.
Hey, chum, what goes?
At the desk. It's the femme fatale I encountered in New York.
And you want to call her a killer? What a lovely way to die.
Something tells me this is going to be an interesting evening. I'm going to talk to her, Mark. Wherever we go, shadow us.
That's Donovan. Always on the edge of things. Look, maybe she's got a friend. Then I could protect you on the spot.
Get out of sight. Here she comes. Good evening, Miss Marinick.
Oh, it's you.
You couldn't be surprised.
What do you want?
Yeah, thought you might like to have dinner with me.
You are a strange person.
You'll learn a lot more about me while we dine. Shall we?
All right, Grace.
We found a little place below sidewalk level with a floor of flat cobbles. We sat at a table of scrubbed oak and looked at each other by the light of a candle jammed in a bottle that had once held Hennessy's 5-star cognac.
Why do you stare at me?
You're so beautiful. And so lethal.
I didn't kill that man, Race. He was dead when I arrived.
Why were you there?
Later, Perhaps I may be able to tell you.
You're going to give me trouble, baby. I'm sure of that. You got to give me trouble because of the look of you. The touch of you. Remember that kiss we had a few nights ago?
Yes, I remember, Race. I remember. A little too well. But such things are not for me. Not yet.
All right, baby. Let's have it.
So you can mock me with your doubt?
I can see that you and I are...
What is it, Race?
Yeah, we're going to have company. A threesome just came in. Perhaps you know them.
Those men? I've never seen them before.
They spotted us. They're coming over. They move slightly to one side.
Who are they?
The first one in front calls him Lanford. You can classify him as a very sinister personality.
Good evening, Mr. Reyes.
Don't sit down, Lanford. Just keep standing there. All three of you.
You have a pistol.
A rather excellent Luger. One that could put slugs into all of you in less time than I need to take a breath.
You won't get away from us, Race, any more than Rogers did in New York.
So you were the authors of that little act. Thanks for the information. And now you can listen to some news from me. I'm going out of this place while you stay behind. The young lady will probably want to stay with you.
No, Race. I'll go with you.
My sense of discretion said, go along. But the tone of her voice swayed me, and I nodded. Outside, the street lamps had been turned off, leaving the streets dim, shadowy.
They'll follow, won't they?
Yes. So we'll duck in here. There's a stable, ramshackle with gaping holes in its boarding. We moved to the back of it, crowded into an empty stall.
What is it they want?
Same thing you do, I imagine.
Wait. I hear something.
Well, of course you hear something. You didn't really believe you could get away from us, did you, Race?
That was by sound, Lanford. The next one won't just cripple, it'll kill.
Where on earth have you been? We've been waiting for ages.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had a brush with your friend Lanford. We had to take him to a hospital.
Splendid.
Here are the plans, Mr. Race, in this cylinder.
You'll find it rather bulky, but strong. Would you like a look at the drawings?
After the excitement they've caused, we certainly would.
The power plant is one of the big things here.
Mm-hmm. So I see. Turbine activated by 4 simplified jet units.
We are making great strides in aviation these days. For too long, we were parasites. For power, we used the engine that had been developed by the automobile. For propulsion, we used the propeller evolved for ships.
With some modification, of course.
Very little when you come to think of it. The engine we took as it was, and in water or in the air, the propeller works in much the same way. But from now on, it is going to be different, Mr. Ace. Jet force, new designs. From now on, aviation will be the giver, not the receiver.
How about it, Race? You feel all right about taking over these drawings?
I'll take care of them.
Don't forget, there's a lot of money tied up there.
When they left, I rumpled the bed and slipped the cylinder holding the plans under the covers. I'd scarcely done this when...
I'll get it, Race.
May I come in, Race?
Hey, thought we took you to your hotel.
I had to see you again. Do you have those plans, Race?
As a matter of fact, I do. Why?
Those plans were developed and drawn by my brother. They were stolen from him, and they were his life. If I don't get them back... You don't believe me, do you?
Maybe more than you think. What was your brother's first name?
Richard. Richard Moraney.
That checks. The initials are M on each corner of the plans. Now we'll check something else.
What are you doing?
This container is not only bulky, its walls are suspiciously thick. So I'm cutting it here and...
There is something between the layers.
Yes. A canvas. And it's probably a...
Put that down, you idiot, before you destroy it.
And you wouldn't want me to destroy an old master, would you, Mrs. Jefferson? So this is what Lanford's been after. You didn't miss a trick, did you? Big insurance for a smokescreen so he could move the painting without suspicion. With me as the clay pigeon.
Pick up that cylinder, Tender. Still going to move it, Race. I know a gentleman who'll pay me $500,000 for that painting. Just tell me one thing. How did you spot us?
Well, you're Dr. Tanner, such an obvious fake. No aeronautical engineer would ever make the statement that the propeller of a ship and the propeller of a plane work the same way. Would he, Mark?
Nah. An airplane prop makes a vacuum which sucks the plane into it. You see, Race, I remember.
While the propeller of a surface vessel literally screws its way through water, which is practically a solid.
So we muffed it. We didn't miss when we saw this girl come up to your room. So long, Race. Better investigating next time. And don't try to follow me. I know how to handle this pistol right well.
I don't have to follow you, Mrs. Jefferson. When you hear this cablegram, you'll be following me.
Cablegram?
When the police found me with Rogers in New York, they wanted to hold me as a material witness. I staved that off by telling them that a woman had been there. To prove it, I gave them that compact of yours.
My compact?
Yes, and it seems it had a mess of fingerprints on it. Most of them yours.
I didn't kill Rogers. I was on my way to London.
But you traveled under another name, you remember? Which makes me your only alibi.
You're bluffing.
Am I? Listen to the cablegram. Your young dame turned out to be a Mrs. Leah Jefferson, age 54. Where is she? Signed Manson, Homicide Bureau, New York Police Department.
Pay no attention to him, Leah. Let us go.
I have to pay attention to him. You think I'm going to spend the rest of my life running from a murder rap? You're crazy. What are your terms, Race?
I'll take the plane drawings to the States, as per your insurance contract. The canvas will turn over to the proper authorities here in Europe. We'll say we found it.
All right. It's a deal.
It is no deal. I, too, have an interest in this affair. No, don't lift that pistol, Leah, or I'll put a bullet in you from this gun of mine. Now, just stand quietly, all of you. And now...
I was justified in doing that, wasn't I, Race? After all, he was attempting to break the law.
I'm afraid I'll have to leave that decision to the local police.
What about my brother, Race? Those drawings belong to him.
You might get in touch with him. Tell him to come along with us. I imagine he might be able to make quite a deal for himself over there. Besides, I'd kind of like to have you along, too.
The Adventures of Frank Race, starring Tom Collins with Tony Barrett as Mark Donovan, comes to you from Hollywood. Others heard in tonight's cast were Gene Bates, D.J. Thompson, Tom Holland, Frank Lovejoy, and Parley Bear. This series is written and directed by Joel Murcott and Buckley Angel. The music is composed and played by Ivan Ditmars. Be sure to be with us again this same time next week for another dramatic chapter in The Adventures of Frank Race. Art Gilmore speaking. This is a Bruce Ells production.
That was The Airborne Adventure from The Adventures of Frank Race, as originally heard June 19th, 1949. Coming up next on Classic Radio Rewind is an episode from Cloak and Dagger, an OSS operative who travels to liberated Paris to replace a dead friend as a spy and as a husband. His mission is to uncover Nazis disguised as American soldiers. Dating back to September 15th, 1950 is Cloak and Dagger with Seeds of Doubt.
Are you willing to undertake a dangerous mission behind the enemy lines, knowing you may never return alive?
What you have just heard is the question asked during the war to agents of the OSS. Ordinary citizens who to this question answered, yes.
This is Cloak and Dagger.
warfare, espionage, international intrigue. These are the weapons of the OSS. Tonight's story, Seeds of Doubt, concerning an OSS agent who tracked down Nazis in American uniforms, is suggested by actual incidents recorded in the Washington files of the Office of Strategic Services. A story that can now be told.
I'm glad I wasn't there when Celeste got my message. If I had been, I might have called the whole deal off. Found some other way to carry out my mission. What I did was pretty brutal. I know just how it must have been. I gave the note to the baker's delivery boy, Henri. He must have driven the dilapidated old truck through those majestic iron gates of the Chateau Breton, 12 miles south of Paris, circled the huge house and come to a stop at the servants' entrance. And perhaps it was Muriel herself, Celeste's personal maid, who answered the door.
Pour mademoiselle.
Merci, monsieur. Pour vous, monsieur.
Merci, madame.
And then Muriel began that long climb up to Celeste's room. 3 flights of marble stairs and then down the carpeted corridor to the 4th door on the right-hand side.
Mademoiselle?
Entrez. Entrez, Muriel.
Celeste was probably reading. She always was in those days. It was a way of passing time while she waited for some word from my friend, Paul Blanchard.
A message, mademoiselle.
A message? From who, Muriel?
I do not know. It was all so mysterious. A baker's truck was at the door, and the boy gave...
No, never mind. Give it to me.
Voilà, mademoiselle.
Oh, that handwriting.
Mademoiselle, it is not from...
No. Be quiet. Oh, mon Dieu.
But then it is...
C'est ça. It is Paul. My Paul. He is here in Paris. He is waiting for me in the cafe in Montparnasse. Oh, le bon Dieu. I was afraid he was dead.
That's how it must have been. And all the while I sat in a dingy little room in the back of the Café de Trois Chars, drinking cognac, feeling like a dog, waiting. I waited about an hour, and then...
Paul. Oh, Paul.
Mademoiselle Breton?
Oh, you are not Paul.
No.
Where is he?
Mademoiselle, I was a friend of Paul Blanchard.
But where is he? Where is Paul?
Mademoiselle...
Answer me.
Very well. Paul is dead. Like I say, it was brutal. But is there any way of saying it that isn't brutal? She tottered toward the table and then slumped into a chair.
Dead.
Her face was deathly white. And yet it was still the loveliest face I'd ever seen.
But this note, it is Paul's handwriting.
Well, a forgery, mademoiselle. The OSS is well equipped to forge any man's handwriting.
The OSS? Oh, I begin to understand. You are a...
Lieutenant Martin Ingalls, Morale Office, OSS.
And you deliberately told...
That's right. I had to see you, but I couldn't come to the chateau. And I knew you wouldn't ignore a note like that.
I see. I will aid you for this, Lieutenant. As long as
That'll be rather awkward, considering our future relationship.
We shall have no future relationship, you and I.
I think we will. I've come to Paris to take Paul's place.
Take his place?
Yes, as your fiancé. At first, that is. And then later, as your husband. She sat down again, slowly, and listened in stony silence as I told her how I'd met her fiancé in North Africa. I told her how he'd described me, and then how he described their swift, frenzied courtship in Geneva just before Paul joined the Free French forces. Then I told her how he died.
Paul loved France.
Yes. And he told me once that you loved her, too. And that's why I'm sure you won't refuse to make your own sacrifice for her.
And that is what, monsieur?
Allowing me to pose as Paul. Letting everyone think I'm the man you met in Switzerland.
How do you know you could pose as Paul? That someone who might not recognize you.
The OSS has made sure that it'll be perfectly safe. You see, Paul's father was a government official in Madagascar for 20 years before the war. Paul visited France only once, and that was the age of 8. And from that age until he met you in Switzerland, he hadn't set foot in Europe. So you see, no one would know the difference.
I would know it.
Of course. That would be your sacrifice.
And how would France benefit by my suffering?
I couldn't blame her for putting it like that, but I wasn't exactly flattered. I tried to explain my mission. D-Day was 6 months behind us, and most of France had been liberated. But now there was Bastogne, the Battle of the Bulge, von Rundstedt's big offensive. And black warfare is a game two can play. Morale, or the lack of it, can help decide a war. The OSS knew that. And so did the Nazis. And that's why there are German agents floating around Paris, doing their best to plant seeds of doubt and to destroy Allied morale.
Nazis here in Paris? But how is it they're not caught?
Well, that's my job. It's not going to be easy because most of them are in GI uniforms.
Impossible.
Why? We send agents behind German lines. They send them behind ours. Black warfare was Hitler's first great weapon. Why do you think Poland, the Low Countries, yes, even France collapsed so fast in 1940? Because the Nazis had agents behind the lines, fifth columnists, doing the same thing then that they're doing now.
But that was in 1940.
The war isn't over yet, mademoiselle. Far from it. And the longer these Nazi agents operate in Paris, the longer the war is going to last. Now, that's why it's important that the OSS smoke them out, and fast.
But I do not see why it should be necessary for you to...
To become your husband? Well, because then I'd be the master of Chateau Breton. And what could be more natural for a wealthy Frenchman and his wife out of gratitude to the Americans than to throw open their home to lonely GIs in Paris?
You mean
parties, mademoiselle. Cocktail parties, dinners, dances, whatever might attract the GIs.
And the German agents, n'est-ce pas?
Right. It's at affairs like that they do their work. They spread rumors and lies, stir up dissension. And it wouldn't take me long to spot them.
It is a very clever scheme, Lieutenant. There is only one thing wrong with it. I do not care to be your wife.
It would be a strictly impersonal arrangement. And just as soon as my job is done...
No. It is out of the question.
Very well, mademoiselle. I'm sorry Paul was wrong.
Wrong?
About you. That was another dirty trick, playing on her memory of Paul, her love for him. But it worked. In a half hour, we were engaged.
Do you, Celeste Breton, take this man to be your lawful wedded husband?
I do.
And do you, Paul Blanchard, take this woman to be your
Not one of the Paris blue bloods who crowded into the church suspected that the headquarters colonel wasn't really a minister. And I guess I was the only one who wished he were. After the ceremony, Celeste and I drove out to the chateau and settled down to housekeeping.
Yes? Who is he?
Your husband.
Well, what is it you want, Lieutenant?
Well, I just got back from the USO. I announced our first open house for Saturday. Looks like we're going to have quite a mob.
We should be ready for them.
If you don't mind my stepping in, we can talk about it.
But we just did talk about it. No?
Yeah, I guess we did.
Then good night, Lieutenant.
And that was married life at the Chateau Breton. It's a good thing our series of parties did start then. Took my mind off other things. It looked like every Joe in the European theater attended those parties. The champagne flowed, the canapes vanished. Each clam bake was a bigger success than the one before it. Except I didn't spot any Nazi agents. Yes, there were plenty of rumors, sure. That's one thing an army always has plenty of.
I tell ya, I hear we're getting our brains beat out at Bastogne. This man's war ain't over yet, pal. The guy was telling me the other day how the brass snafu thinks at Cambrai.
Like a guy was saying the other day, if Hitler wants to negotiate, well, let's negotiate and get it over with so we can go home.
I heard Hitler's got a secret weapon. Bacteriological stuff. He's just waiting for the right time to use it.
If I'd arrested every guy I heard repeating a rumor, I'd have had half the GIs in Paris in the clink. The guy I was looking for was a guy who did all the talking the other day. I knew he was one of the guys lounging in the living room or sprawled on the patio or loafing in the gardens. Yes, but which one? For several days, I didn't get anywhere. And then I noticed Corporal Alan Chester. I might never have paid any attention to him if he hadn't paid so much attention to Celeste. Every time I looked up, they had their heads together, and Celeste was smiling. And the time I found them sitting on a bench in the garden, she was actually laughing.
Oh, hello, Paul.
Well, if it was a good story, you're going to have to tell it again, Corporal.
It was a very good story. You have met my husband, haven't you, Alain? This is Corporal Chester, Paul.
We've met so many times, it's getting embarrassing. I've already apologized to your wife, monsieur, for wearing out my welcome.
No apologies necessary.
My only excuse is I can't stay away. Your chateau's the first place I felt at ease since I left home.
Where is home, Corporal?
Lafayette, Indiana.
Lafayette? Well, an American town with a great French name.
That's right. Maybe that's why I feel like I found a second home right here, 20 kilometers from Paris.
It wasn't much to go on. Just a word that didn't ring quite true. I took Celeste aside and asked her about it.
Alan Chester? You think he might be... Oh, you are a fool, Lieutenant.
Maybe. But I still want to know why he said kilometers. In Indiana, they say miles.
Perhaps if I told you he was a Harvard graduate.
They say miles at Harvard, too. Only Europeans say kilometers.
C'est ça. And because of that, you suspect him of being a Nazi agent. How absurd. He is the most charming of all the men who have come here.
I noticed you thought so.
Did you, Lieutenant? Then maybe that is the reason you suspect him.
I admitted she might have something there. I admitted it to myself, that is. Not to Celeste. An hour later, a jeep with 4 GIs in it rolled through the gates of the chateau, and one of the GIs was Corporal Alan Chester. And 30 seconds later, I was behind the wheel of Celeste's little Jaguar, following the jeep. Dusk was falling, and the road to Paris was lined with traffic, and it wasn't too hard to keep a few cars behind the jeep, seeing without being seen. In town, the jeep pulled up in front of a cafe on the Boulevard Saint-Germain, and Corporal Chester climbed out and waved goodbye to the other 3. Luckily, it was a gloomy joint. He walked straight across the dance floor. I hugged the walls and moved in the same direction. He didn't stop at the bar. He didn't sit down at a table. He headed straight for a back door. He opened it, and he went out. I gave him 10 seconds. Then I went out the back door, too. It was an alley. and as dark as only a Paris alley can be. So dark, I thought there was only one guy leaning against the building.
Pardon, monsieur. Est-ce que vous avez une cigarette?
I dug into my pocket for a cigarette. That's when I knew that there were two guys. I whirled around. The second one was standing behind me, and there was something in his hand that looked like a blackjack. My fist shot out quick and connected. But number one was on me then with a hold that hurt. I broke away, and I let him have it. And that's when I found out what it was the other man held that looked like a blackjack. It was a blackjack. I hit the cobblestones. For a moment, I saw number two standing over me and heard a girl singing far away. And I didn't see or hear anything more for a long time. It was dawn when I climbed up to the third floor of the chateau. If Celeste was sleeping, she woke up plenty fast. And if she had to get into that shimmery house coat she wore, she must have done it in record time.
Lieutenant! Mon Dieu, you look terrible.
I didn't tell her that she looked wonderful. I didn't ask her if I could come in either. I just walked past her and I sat down on a divan. I told her what had happened in the alley off the Boulevard Saint-Germain. But all the time I talked, I was thinking of something else. That we were alone. That she was very beautiful.
And so now, of course, you are quite certain that Corporal Chester is a German agent.
Well, that's how it adds up, doesn't it?
Perhaps I am not so good at figures. These men may have been thieves. They took your money, n'est-ce pas?
Well, that doesn't prove anything. Well, that could have been a cover-up.
But why would Corporal Chester have wanted you beaten up?
Well, to stop me from tailing him. Now, that cafe may be a regular hangout, and his boys may hang around outside to take care of any shadows who show up.
Oh. Then you think he did not know you were following him tonight, huh?
Well, his boys may have reported that they slugged a guy in the alley, but they can't be sure who I was, or even that I was tailing him.
I see.
I look that funny?
No. I am just thinking what a fool you are, Lieutenant.
Strange. I was thinking the same thing myself.
What do you mean?
A man who has a wife as lovely as you doesn't even kiss her. He is a fool, isn't he?
He would be even more of a fool if he tried. Have you forgotten that bargain? A strictly impersonal relationship, you said.
I said it when you said you'd be loyal to Paul Blanchard's memory.
And am I not being loyal?
I don't know. But the way you smiled at Alan Chester wouldn't suggest you are.
Oh. You do not like the way I smile at him, huh?
I don't like it at all.
Then, naturally, you would not wish me to accept this invitation.
What invitation?
That is why I call you a fool, Lieutenant. You think Alan hires men to keep anyone from finding out where he is staying. Why, then, is he so careless with me? Why does he invite me to his room?
Why, that...
Oh, of course, if I went, I could tell you where he is staying. Perhaps I could tell you a great deal more. If he's a Nazi agent, I would surely find it out. Oh, but you do not want me to go.
You're to go whether I want it or not.
How noble you are, Lieutenant.
So she kept her date with Corporal Alan Chester, and I paced the rooms of the chateau and waited for her. And suffered. It was dawn when she got back. Well, let's have the report.
The personal one, Lieutenant, or the impersonal one?
The impersonal one is the only one that concerns me.
Maybe. Well, I found out nothing. And I am more certain than ever that there is nothing to find out.
Okay. Thank you. Well, maybe you'll try again some other night.
Tomorrow night. It is all arranged.
I see.
And I will give you the personal report too, Lieutenant, even though it does not concern you. I had a lovely time.
It was the next night when I began to suspect her. I suppose I started even before she came home. I tried to look at things straight, and I asked myself if I were being taken for a ride. She walked in an hour later.
You are wasting precious time, Lieutenant. I still think Alan is just what he says he is, an American soldier on detached service in Paris. I have seen his orders.
Well, orders can be fake.
Ah, c'est ça. Then, if you are still suspicious, I will keep another date with him. Tomorrow night.
I decided it'd better be 3 of us on that date. She told me the name of his hotel, an old and honorable one, in the Rue de WOTR. I slipped into its musty lobby early the next morning. An old man with bushy brows and a faintly familiar face eyed me as I approached the desk. I told him I was Paul Blanchard, the master of Chateau Breton.
If you say you are Paul Blanchard, monsieur, then you are Paul Blanchard.
Any reason to suppose I'm not?
Mais non, monsieur. None at all. Just as there was no reason during the resistance to suppose that you were an OSS agent.
I remembered him then. He'd been in the Marquis unit I'd worked with on a mission before D-Day. He was Pierre Salon, a patriot. It was a break, and I knew that I was safe. Safe enough to tell him as much as necessary.
It shall be done, Lieutenant. Miss Corporal Chester is in room 613. Room 612 will be vacant all evening. Here's the key to it, Lieutenant. The door between the 2 rooms will be unlocked. Unfortunately, the walls are paper-thin.
5 minutes after Celeste had left that night, I was on the road to Paris. At the hotel, I went straight to room 612, let myself in. It was empty. Pitch black. There was no sound from 613. Celeste and Corporal Chester had probably gone to a cafe first. It might be a long wait. It was a long wait. And a hot one. The windows were closed. The room was stuffy. I stood there in the blackness, and the sweat poured down my face. And the minutes ticked by. Then, at last, the door to 613 opened. I pressed my ear against the wall.
Oh, at last.
Pierre was right about that wall. It was paper
I
thin.
thought we'd never get up here, darling, where I could kiss you. I've been wanting to kiss you all evening.
Oh, Alan.
The sweat was rolling down my face harder than ever.
I don't see how I'm ever going to be able to leave you, Celeste.
This is really our last meeting.
I'm leaving Paris tomorrow morning.
It is very hard to face. Alan,
Yeah?
if I were not married, if Paul were not really my husband.
What's the use of saying it? He is your husband.
But what if I tell you he is not? What if I confess it is all a sham and mockery?
I wasn't sweating anymore. Now I was so cold I shivered.
I don't understand, Celeste. You mean he's only pretending to be your husband?
Marie, only pretending.
But why?
In order to trap you. He is an American, an officer in the OSS. He thinks you are an assassin.
The butt of my revolver was cold, too. My hand squeezed tight around it.
Is this true, Celeste? He actually thinks I'm a German?
Yes. And I think so, too. I know you are.
Celeste.
But I don't care. I would not have told you my secret if I did. I love you.
How long would you go on loving me if I were an enemy of France?
What is France to me? What is any country to any woman? I would love you no matter what you are.
All right, Celeste. You're right. I'm a member of the intelligence service of the Third Reich.
I twisted the knob, jerked open the door, and stepped into room 613.
Lieutenant.
Thank you for selling me out, mademoiselle. If you weren't a traitor, I might never have been sure about Corporal Chester. There was a lamp on the table, the only light in the room, and it stood behind him. As I spoke, a swift movement of his arm sent it crashing to the floor. Now there was darkness again, enveloping all 3 of us. We all moved. We changed our positions swiftly, silently. None of us could speak without tipping off where we were. Neither Chester nor I could fire for fear of missing. So we circled the room. We waited for our eyes to grow accustomed to the dark. And then, he must have thought he saw me. He missed me. The bullet struck something near the door. But the flash of his gun was all I needed. I fired. And then on the third shot... It wasn't until old Pierre Chalon opened the door and light from the hall flooded the room that I saw what the late Corporal Chester's bullet had hit. It mistaken Celeste for me. She lay dead where she had dropped.
Ah, c'est dommage, Lieutenant. C'est dommage. In this war, even the innocent must die.
The innocent? She was a traitor, Pierre.
No, Lieutenant,
She
no.
deserved to die just as much as that rat over there.
But if that is so, then I should not have told her, Lieutenant. I am sorry.
You told her what?
She passed by the desk. I thought she was working with you. You did not mention.
Yes, but what did you say to her?
I said, all is well, mademoiselle.
What?
The lieutenant has arrived. He is in room 612.
Good Lord. Then she knew all the time. Then the only possible reason why she would have told him who I was to persuade him to confess who he was. She'd have been crazy to say what she did otherwise, knowing that I was listening.
Then she did not betray you.
No, Pierre. No, she didn't betray me.
Perhaps it was you she loved then, Lieutenant.
No, Pierre. It was France she loved. The rest was easy. In Corporal Chester's room, he found a list of names and code. We broke the code before dawn the next morning. And by that night, we had every Nazi agent in GI uniform corralled.
And once again, the report of another OSS agent closes with the words,
Mission accomplished.
Listen again next week to another true adventure from the files of the OSS on
Cloak and Dagger.
Heard in tonight's Cloak and Dagger adventure as Lieutenant Ingalls was Chuck Webster, Celeste, Alice Frost, Corporal Alan Chester Joseph Julian. Others were Carl Weber, Evelyn Juster, Jerry Jarrett, Louis Soren, Horace Bram, and Anna Karen. The script was written by Ken Field, and music was under the direction of John Gart. Sound effects by Manny Siegel and John Powers. Engineering by Don Abbott. Tonight's OSS adventure was based on the book Cloak and Dagger by Corey Ford and Alistair McBain. This program was produced by Louis G. Cowan and Alfred Hollander under the direction and supervision of Sherman Marks.
That was Cloak and Dagger with Seeds of Doubt, as originally heard September 15th, 1950. That wraps up hour number 1, but stick around because hour number 2 will return just on the other side of the break. Time to refill drinks and snacks because we'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Classic Radio Rewind. Kicking off this second hour with an episode from the Bird's Eye Open House Show. The Bird's Eye Open House Show, hosted by Dinah Shore, was sponsored by Bird's Eye Frosted Foods and Gaines Dog Food. The show's popularity was drawn from the top ranks of Hollywood comedy talent. No less a personality than Groucho Marx appears as a semi-regular on the show. So from May 17th, 1945, this is the Bird's Eye Open House Show, hosted by Dinah Shore, starring Groucho Marx.
Bird's Eye Frosted Foods present Bird's Eye Open House, starring Dinah Shore, with her special guest, Groucho Marx. Take it away, Dinah.
Dream when you're feeling blue. dream, that's the thing to do. Just watch the smoke rings rise in the air. You'll find your share of memories there. So dream when the day is through. Dream and they might come true. Things never are as bad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream. Things never are as bad as they seem. So dream, dream,
Thank you, and hello, everybody. It's nice seeing so many of you on hand for another session of our Bird's Eye Open House. On hand to make your visit an enjoyable one is our very special guest, Mr. Groucho Marx. In the music department, we have Robert Emmett Dolan in the orchestra, Joe Lilly in the chorus, and here's my good man Friday, who's with me every Thursday, Harry Von Zell.
Yeah.
Hi, Harry.
Hello, Dinah. Yeah, I can't talk, honestly.
You can't
not
talk?
tonight. No, listen, I just passed a butcher shop, and did I see a 12-pound roast beef?
Ooh.
It was the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
Well, why didn't you get it?
Get it, she said. Get it. Dinah, with the number of points that butcher wanted for it, 7 soldiers could get out of the army. My word.
Well, there you go, Harry. Always thinking of food.
Well, now, that's not so. No,
Always thinking of food.
Dinah, I think of lots of things much more vital than foods. Why, right now, I should be up in San Francisco where I belong.
Oh, Harry.
Huh? What's the matter?
Now, don't be silly. What would you know about international affairs?
What I know about international affairs, you see?
Yes.
Dinah, permit me a few small-sized guffaws. Guff, faw, faw. Faw. Why, I'm surprised. Only last week, Dinah, I was called in on an important meeting on post-war reconversion.
Who else attended?
Henry Kaiser was there.
Henry Kaiser?
He brought up the subject of shipyard reconversion, and General Arnold brought up the subject of airplane reconversion, and then I got up and brought up the subject of Lana Turner.
What happened?
Nothing. She's one project that don't need reconversion.
Well, now I'm jealous, and I'm going to sing. Oh, that's all. He's home for a little while. He's mine once again. No need to tell, but it feels simply swell with him close to me, where he's supposed to be. He's home for a little while. I live for his kiss. I hit the skies when he looks in my eyes, and my knees grow weak with bliss. He's sort of changed. He's kind of different from the boy I used to know a while ago. Strange how much he says without a word,
And when he holds my hand, I understand I'm his, but forevermore he's mine, mine alone. We'll have to part, but he's close to my heart for the little while. He's
Well, Dinah,
Thank
you
you.
know something? While you were singing, I did a little figuring, and do you realize that your voice traveled 25,000 miles in 1/10 of a second?
Harry, you're amazing.
I can't help
Now,
it.
you see, that just shows... Modest little fella. That just shows what a college education did for you.
Oh, but now don't you believe it, Dinah. I'm a self-made man. I spent 4 years at Harvard and learned nothing.
I spent 2 years at Vassar and learned plenty.
That sounds like Groucho Marx.
Well, it is, huh?
Hello,
I don't want to get out
Groucho.
of... Hello, Dinah, my sweet.
How are you?
Dinah, I've seen you look lovely, but never as lovely as you look tonight. Why, that dress is magnificent.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you like it. You know, it's the first dress to come out of unoccupied France.
Maybe, but it's certainly well occupied now.
Groucho, I've never known a man who notices women's clothes as much as you do.
Why shouldn't I? Why, next to a woman, what is more important than clothes?
A girdle that fits.
A girdle, eh? That Bonzel certainly has an elastic mind. Another remark like that, and I'll see to it that you're sent up the river for a two-way stretch.
Well, Groucho, you've certainly got a point there, and it's right on top of your head.
I keep it that way to sharpen my pencils.
Oh, please now, fellas, stop it. Don't start that all over again. No squabbling.
Well, he squabbed first. You can't get chicken or you can't get squab.
You see what I say, Dinah? Here we were having an intelligent discussion when this buffoon breaks in and...
Me, a buffoon? That's a laugh. Buffoon. That certainly is a laugh. Well, maybe it isn't a laugh. I don't know. They told me it was.
I told you, Dinah, the man knows nothing.
Is that so? Well, for 3 weeks, I was at Dumbarton Oaks.
Oh, but I didn't see you. I was at Dumbarton Oaks.
I was disguised as an acorn. I was out on a limb for 2 days.
Oh, please, let's...
Nothing personal.
Groucho, you just have to face it now. I can't picture you thinking seriously of the international scene. I just
No,
can't.
well, at the moment, I'm involved in a tremendous international project to build a superhighway up the coast of California, through Canada, across Alaska, over the Bering Sea. And I, Groucho Marx, have just gotten official permission from Joseph Stalin himself.
To run the road through Russia?
No, to run a hot dog stand outside of Moscow. We're using red mustard. And yellow frankfurters.
I can't get a word in edgewise. Oh, it's
Not
what
with
I
red
tell
mustard.
you, Dinah. He knows nothing about international affairs. He's a buffoon.
Yeah, buffoon. Only last week I had a long talk with Molotov. And you know what I said?
What?
Nothing. I can't speak a word of Russian.
Well, I can speak a word of Russian, and I will.
Let's hear it.
Muravkov.
Muravkov?
Muravkov. What does that mean?
Spinach.
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 Bird's eye, quick frozen spinach.
Muravkov?
Muravkov?
The most delicious, luscious, garden fresh spinach you ever had the pleasure of sinking your teeth into. So garden fresh, you'd think you had just picked it out of your own garden. And when the representatives of all the nations are seated around the conference table, what do you think they'll ask for first?
Diner, I can get 11-5 around the corner. The guy says Muravkov. Or spinach.
Well, I know where I can get 12-1.
I'll take 12-1.
You will?
Sure. 12-1 is my lunch hour, and what's better at lunch than bird's eye spinach?
He said he got a one-track Muravkov.
Well, no, it's so easy to prepare, Groucho. There's no washing, no sorting, no sand or grit. Nothing to do with bird's eye Moravkov, but take those glistening green leaves of perfectly clean spinach out of the package.
I'm glistening every word you say.
Why, really, it's so easy. You take it out of the package, pop into boiling water, cook, and eat, and that's all.
Dinah, this spinach auctioneer doesn't know anything about international affairs. He doesn't know a pact from a treaty.
Oh, no? I know that bird's eye spinach comes attractively packed and is a treaty for the whole family. I thought for a minute I'd never get out of that.
As far as I'm concerned, you can crawl back in again. You and your Moravkov.
And think of this, Groucho.
Imagine cream Moravkov, huh?
Are you using the same script I've got here?
Yeah, but I put cream on top of mine.
Hey, Groucho, here's
anything comes around here.
Here's another thing. 1 box of bird's eye spinach will serve 4. It doesn't take a ration point, and it's really wonderful eating. So everybody should buy lots of packages of bird's eye spinach.
Dinah, I've listened to Von Zell long enough. It's time I told you that I had a long talk with Stettinius. And he assured me that right now I've got 1 foot under the conference table.
Oh, Groucho, he's just pulling your leg.
That's great.
That's just what do you mean?
Well, all he has to do is pull the other leg, and I'll have both feet under the conference table.
When I write to you and say everything is okay, if my letters seem gay, can't you read between the lines? I go dancing when I'm blue, as you wrote me to do. But it's not like with you. Can't you read between the lines? It might worry you if I told you I cried every night. You tell me it won't, but why take a chance that it might? I'll be seeing you again. Only heaven knows when. But my dear, until then, can't you read between the lines? It might worry you if I told you I cried every night. You tell me it won't, but why take a chance that it might? I'll be seeing you again. Only heaven knows when. But my dear, until then, can't you read between the lines?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, comes time for the Bird's Eye Little Players to bring you an episode in the home life of the Thorndikes. Mary, played by Dinah, and John Thorndyke, played by Groucho Marx, are in the parlor. It is the night of their daughter Olive's graduation. Mary speaks.
Oh, John,
Yes, matey?
how are things at the department store today?
Department store? What department store?
Sears.
Sears? What business is he in?
He runs a department store.
A department store? What's that got to do with me?
But, John, you've been working there for 20 years.
20 years. Well, this is a fine time to tell me. What do I do there?
You're in lingerie.
I'm in lingerie?
Yes.
No wonder the floor walkers keep whistling at me.
Tell me, John, did you go in to speak to the boss today?
What boss?
Mr. Sears.
Mr. Sears? What business is he in?
He owns a department store.
Lucky man. What a business to own. Huge profits. Makes money year in and year out. It's positively a foolproof business.
Oh, I wish you owned a department store.
Not me.
Why not?
It's too risky. And now, matey, what did you want to ask me?
Did you speak to the boss about a raise?
I should say not.
Why not?
He doesn't deserve a raise.
John, it's you I'm talking about. You deserve a raise.
I do?
Yes.
Why?
Well, after all, John, you've been working there for 20 years.
20 years is a long time, matey. And I've just made up my mind.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to quit tomorrow.
But where will you apply for another job?
Sears.
But, John, you have a job at Sears now.
Good. Then I can apply during my lunch hour.
Now, please, John. John, dear, promise me you'll speak to your boss.
My boss? Who's my boss?
Sears.
Sears. Can't you ever say anything else but Sears? Mary, I've got a good mind to break out engagement.
But, John, we've been married for 19 years.
19 years?
Yes.
Good. I'm tired of being a bachelor. Well, I think I'll go out and see a movie.
A movie? John, now don't tell me you've forgotten about tonight.
Tonight? What's tonight?
You're going to the public school graduation.
Graduation? Don't be silly. I graduated from public school 30 years ago.
Not your graduation.
Well, that's different. Well, matey, you're graduating at last.
I'm not graduating.
Left back again, eh?
John, it's your daughter who's graduating.
My daughter? Who's my daughter?
Olive.
Olive? Who's Olive?
Olive is your daughter.
Ridiculous.
Of course she's your daughter. She looks just like you.
Who looks just like me?
Your daughter.
She does?
Yes, she has your nose.
No wonder I couldn't smell the corned beef and cabbage last night.
Oh, she's a lovely child.
Who's a lovely child?
Olive.
Olive? Who's Olive?
Your daughter, John. Just think, she's sweet 16 and she's never been kissed.
Well, don't you think it's about time one of us kissed her?
John, just think she's in high school now, and when she's 20, she'll be at finishing school.
Finishing school at 20. That's remarkable. I didn't finish school until I was 37. Of course, I was only half finished. My father was Swedish.
You know, I think high school is very important. My father went to high school, and he took his hat off to no man.
Your father took his hat off to no man?
That's right.
He must have gotten some mighty interesting haircuts.
Oh, John, you're so absent-minded. I just know you didn't get a graduation present for Olive.
What did you get her?
I bought her a fountain pen, the kind that doesn't leak 16,000 feet in the air.
16,000 feet in the air.
Yes.
Olive is a tall girl, isn't she?
John, it's almost time to go to the graduation. You'd better call the florist and order something.
Whatever you say, dear. Hello, Acme Flowers? Yes, I'd like to order some flowers. For who? Just a moment. Who are the flowers for?
For Olive.
Olive? Who's Olive?
Your daughter.
Hello, they're for my daughter. He doesn't even know her name. Those florists. What's that? You suggest bachelor buttons? How much are they? What's that? $6 a dozen for bachelor buttons? Well, just send over the buttons. You can keep the bachelor. Goodbye. And now, matey, I hope you're satisfied. Well, let's go to the movies.
Have you forgotten? We're going to Olive's graduation.
Olive? Who's Olive?
John, this is too much. Your absent-mindedness has finally driven me mad. I can't stand another moment of it. I'm going to divorce you.
Matey, do you know what you're saying?
Yes, John. I'm leaving you.
Very well, but there's one thing we must settle first.
What's that?
Who will get custody of Olive?
Olive? Who's Olive?
Evelina, won't you ever take a shine to that moon? Evelina, ain't you bothered by the bobolinks too? Tell me how long you're gonna keep delaying the day. Don't you reckon it's wrong?
Trifling with April this way.
Baby, Evelina, won't you pay a little mind to me soon? Wake up, wake up. The earth is fair, the fruit is fine. But what's the use of smelling watermelon, clinging to another fella's vine? Evelina, won't you roll off that vine and be mine? Wake up, wake up. The earth is fair, the fruit is fine. But what's the use of smelling watermelon growing on another fella's vine? Oh, Evelina, won't you roll right off the vine and be mine? Roll off the vine and be mine, all mine, all mine, all mine.
Say, Mom, will you do me a favor? Tomorrow, before you go shopping, grab a piece of string and tie it around your little finger. And then when you go into your Bird's Eye store to buy some of those wonderful Bird's Eye frosted foods, let that string remind you to be sure that the packages you pick are clearly marked Bird's Eye. Because, listen, if they're not, you won't enjoy that famous Bird's Eye quality and flavor. And then you might as well take that string and go out and fly a kite with it. But seriously, though, you really should be sure those packages you pick carry the Bird's Eye label, because, you see, there are many brands of frosted foods, but only one Bird's Eye. And there's nothing more delicious than Bird's Eye, for their farm freshness is captured for you by quick freezing. And there's nothing easier to serve, for Bird's Eye foods are all prepared and cleaned. So all you do is remove them from the package, cook them, and eat them. And nothing but the package marked Bird's Eye can give that famous Bird's Eye uniform top quality, Bird's Eye garden freshness. So for your own protection, look for and be sure you get that Bird's Eye label. Remember, for the better buy in frosted foods, better buy Bird's Eye.
You belong to my heart now and forever. And our love had its start not long ago. We were gathering stars while a million guitars played our love song. When I said I love you, every beat of my heart said it too. 'Twas a moment like this. Do you remember? And your eyes held a kiss when they voice and a million guitars are still playing. Darling, you are the song, and you'll always belong to my heart.
We were gathering stars while a million guitars played our love song. When I said I love you, every beat of my heart said it too.
Una vez nada más se entrega el alma con la dulce total renunciación. Una vez nada más en mi huerto brilló la esperanza que alumbra el camino de mi soledad. La da di da da da, la da di da da da, la da di da 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 da.
Thanks a lot for helping with the festivities tonight. It was wonderful having you. Next week, we here at the Bird's Eye Open House are looking forward to a visit from the Universal Studio motion picture star, Turn Bay. Girls, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all hoping and praying that VJ Day will soon happen. But we all know that hopes and prayers are not quite enough when there are 80 million Japs who still have to be beaten. So let's not just hope and pray. Let's buy war bonds. Let's make this 7th war bond drive the biggest yet. You know, the road to Tokyo is a long and a rough one. It'll be paved with suffering and American lives. Let's shorten that road the only way we can, by buying bonds. They're an investment in the United States, in democracy, and a better world. Night, everybody.
Hey, friends, next week, tune in a half hour earlier and hear a full hour of entertainment. The Frank Morgan Show with Cass Daly, followed immediately by Bird's Eye Open House with Dinah Shore, her special guest, Turhan Bey, Robert Emmett-Dolan, his orchestra, Joe Lilly, his chorus, and yours truly. Bird's Eye Open House, starring Dinah Shore, is written by Howard Harris and Sid Zelinka.
Speak. Speak for Gaines. Yes, dogs put their bark of approval on Gaines. Gaines, Gaines dog meal that nourishes every inch of your dog. The complete meal containing everything dogs are known to need. Meat meal, vegetables, cereals, minerals, and vitamins. That's why it's been a trusted standby of prize dog breeders and veterinarians for over 15 years. Listen to your dog speak. Speak for Gaines. America's largest selling dog food.
This is the National Broadcasting Company.
You're listening to KFI Los Angeles, Earl C. Anthony Incorporated, California Packet Distributor. Following is transcribed.
Every night after supper, here's the way the songs begin.
I like Chiclets candy-coated chewing gum.
Then we chew refreshing Chiclets, and all of us join in. I like Chiclets candy-coated chewing gum.
That was the Bird's Eye Open House show starring Groucho Marx, as originally heard May 17th, 1945. And concluding this week's podcast, we will hear a tale from The Witch's Tale. A young couple accepts the challenge to sleep in a haunted house. Written by Alonzo Dean Cole, this is The Witch's Tale with Rockabye Baby, dated all the way back to March 15th, 1934.
bring you The Witch's Tale, written and produced by Alonzo Dean Cole. The Witch's Tale.
It is our purpose in these programs to perform a double function by providing thrilling entertainment and also by bringing you important information in a brief message. Tonight's message may save you or other members of your family needless suffering from distressing pain. I refer to pains which you recognize as rheumatism or neuritis or discomfort in the kidneys and the back. Now, most of you know that for many years, wealthy people were sent to famous European mineral springs and came back reporting enthusiastically that the expense of the trip was well worthwhile. Those European mineral waters relieved them of the pains of rheumatism, neuritis, and kidney troubles, and renewed vital energy was reflected in their faces and in every step they took. Now, I've reminded you of this so that you will understand why Crucian salts relieves pains of rheumatism and similar ailments so quickly and effectively. You see, Crucian was developed to duplicate the therapeutic effects of those famous European springs. Crucian contains those elements in a balanced combination of 6 mineral health salts. Doctors know this remarkable Crucian formula, know that it is absolutely harmless and marvelously effective. That is why Crucian is prescribed by more doctors throughout the world than any other medicinal salts or crystals. If you are subject to rheumatism and neuritis or kindred ailments, let Crucian gently but surely rid you of the poisons which have secretly accumulated in your system. And you will be amazed at the result. For these poisons circulate through the bloodstream and set up an aggravated pain that gradually gets worse if it isn't properly relieved. Don't put up with it needlessly another day when your nearest drug counter has Crucian. That word Crucian, spelled K-R-U-S-C-H-E-N, has meant joy to millions of grateful people. In countless homes, it keeps happy folks free from acidity, free from acid-caused headaches, sour stomach, and flatulence, and free from the aches and pains of rheumatism, neuritis, and distressed kidneys. As your doctor will confirm, all these troubles can be related to each other. So tomorrow, join the millions who keep themselves feeling fit and looking fit due to Crucian. Learn for yourself what it means to always have that Crucian feeling. And now for our visit to old Nancy and her wise black cat.
Hannah and 5-year-old I be today. Yes, sir. Hannah and 5-year-old. Real Satan. It's a real bedtime story we got for folks tonight. Everybody douse out them lights so's we have it nice and dark. Our little tales is best listened to amongst the ghostly shadows. Now draw up to the fire and gaze into the embers. Gaze into them deep, and soon you'll be across the seas in England. There begins our yarn of Rockabye Baby. Rockabye Baby.
Mr. Melvin, you don't honestly believe what you just said.
Oh, yes, my dear fellow. There's a room in the east tower of this old mansion which is positively haunted.
Mrs. Beckett, he's just fooling, isn't he?
No, indeed, Mrs. Christie. I share Mr. Melvin's opinion that his tower room is here.
So do I. I wouldn't enter the place after sundown for £20,000.
Robert, I never heard of such a thing. 3 grown-up people believing in ghosts.
Well, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, honey, but I warn you, ladies and gentlemen, that my wife and I came from Missouri.
Missouri? You know, so many Americans say they come from that great state. It must be very populous.
But, George, I understood Mr. and Mrs. Christie to say their home was in, such a difficult name.
Robert and I were born in Kentucky, Mrs. Beckett.
It's only since you mentioned spooks that we've been from Missouri.
I don't understand.
I do. But whether you believe us or not, Mr. Christie, the fact remains that no one can pass a night in the room I speak of.
You mean to tell me that I couldn't stay there?
My dear fellow, you'd find it an utter impossibility.
Is that so? Well, say, now look
Robert,
here, I'm
you
just...
be still. Let Mr. Malvin tell us about the place. What's supposed to happen is so scary, Mr. Malvin.
Wait till we have another drink to make the yarn seem better.
Yes, capital idea. I'll be the barmaid.
You better not take too many drinks.
Of course I'm having more.
But this will make you sick this evening.
Well, what if it does? I know how to handle my liquor, Susie.
When I hear you married couples quarrel, I truly appreciate my bachelorhood.
Oh, please don't think that Robert and I were quarreling, Mr. Malvin.
Oh, I should say not. Our little arguments never mean anything, do they, Rockabye Baby?
Rockabye Baby?
Oh, that's just a little family secret.
Yep, one that goes way back. Way, way back, don't it, honey?
But now, Mr. Malvin, suppose you tell us what awful things happen in that haunted room of yours.
Yeah, just what sort of a person is your family ghost?
Well, it's the uneasy spirit of an ancestor of mine. His portrait hangs here on his wall.
That old gentleman in the red suit?
Robert, he looks just like pictures of Sir Walter Raleigh.
He lived in the same age, and like Raleigh, he died by the headsman's axe.
His head was chopped off?
Yes, he went to the block for murder. I blush to admit that my ancestor was a cold-blooded killer of the most depraved type. He was a sadistic strangler.
Whom did he strangle?
Old records place the number of his victims as between 30 and 40. That room in the tower was the scene of his crimes, which may be the reason his evil spirit lingers there.
Oh, bunk. Pardon me now, but you can't convince me that spirits linger anywhere on Earth.
Still, the fact remains that no one can remain in that room after nightfall.
You said that before, so I reckon you believe it, but I'll remain in your haunted room any night you say.
If I permitted it, you wouldn't see it through.
Is that so? Say, you a betting man?
On occasion, why?
Because I'll bet you $100 that I'll stay in your tower room tonight.
Me too, Robert. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Sorry, old chap, but I never make a wager of less than £1,000.
£1,000? That's $5,000.
Well, if Mr. Malvin insists on throwing money away, I'll just take him for $1,000.
Very well. I'll make out my check. You cover it. And Beckett here will hold the stake.
I'll cover it. Where's the fountain pen?
Oh, you can use mine, old chap.
The terms are that you will remain in that room from midnight until sunrise. If you fail, your wager is forfeit.
And when we come down cheerfully to a late breakfast, you forfeit yours.
Exactly. Here's my check, Beckett.
Here's mine.
Righto.
It's nearly midnight now. Take us to your tower, Mr. Malvin. I'm just dying to see the place.
Very well. Well, there's no electricity in the room, but you'll have plenty of candles and you'll be quite comfortable. At first. Oh, do you carry a pistol, Christy?
A pistol?
What would Robert be told a pistol?
Since you have none, I'll lend you one of mine. One has a feeling of security with a gun in his possession, even though it will prove of little value against the dead whom you may meet.
Well, will you listen to this man, Susie?
If he keeps on, he'll have me bleeding in his skull.
Believe as you like, but at the first indication of something abnormal in that room, I advise you to consider your lives rather than your wager.
If we see a spook big enough to drive us out of that room, I'll consider it worth £1,000.
That's why we came to England, because we hoped something different would happen.
I've an idea that tonight you shall see something very different, Mrs. Christie. I'm quite positive that you shall.
$1:00, honey. We've been here over an hour. This must be the night when Malvin's ghost don't work.
I reckon. But I've got to confess it. When we first came in here, I had cold shivers running up and down my spine.
Well, I don't wonder. This is sure enough what a haunted room should look like.
Yes, it's so full of spooky shadows and dark corners. You know, I'm not scared of anything, but I'm awfully glad we have so many cows here.
We wouldn't be very cheerful without them, that's a fact. You know, to folks who were the least bit superstitious, all that talk that Malvin handed out and the appearance of this old room, well, their imaginations might get working so they'd be scared to death.
Yes, imaginations are powerful things. Oh, what's that?
I don't know. Oh, I see. Honey, it's just an old loose shutter banging against the window. Look.
It startled me. Pretty old room, this, isn't it? I mean, if you let your imagination get going.
No danger you and me doing that.
Well, I should say there isn't. Only, Robert, what do you think makes Mr. Malvin so sure that something's going to happen here tonight? Of course, we've only known him a couple of weeks, which is hardly time enough to judge, but he doesn't strike me as the sort of man who'd bet £1,000 for. Well, just for the fun of betting.
Well, Melvin isn't the kind you'd call a natural chance-taking gambler, is he?
He must believe there's something queer about this room. Listen, you take his gun and all.
Oh, that's 'cause he and the Becketts are just superstitious idiots. Still, I shouldn't be making crackpot bets like this. Guess I've been drinking a little too much lately, Susie.
I'm afraid you have been, Robert. Oh, I don't care about the foolish things it makes you do like betting, but, Robert, it's pulling you away from me.
Oh, no, Susie.
Yes. We're drawing away from one another. Away from the time you used to hold me on your knee.
Sing your rockabye, baby, like a crazy lunatic.
Yes, but it wasn't crazy. It was something precious. We were just kids when you sang it to me first. I was only 5.
And I was 9. With a mother instinct.
Don't make fun about it. You did it because you love me. As we grew up, you kept on doing it all the time we were going together, while we were engaged, and first after we were married. You haven't a very good singing voice, Robert, and you helped me uncomfortably most times, but that song was a foolish, wonderful secret between us two. It was a kind of symbol of our love, and don't sing it to me anymore.
I haven't forgot our love, Susie. And I haven't forgot our song. Come here on my knee, honey. You're going to be rocked in my arms right now.
Robert, you're muzzing my dress.
What do we care about no dress and there's important singing to be done? I love you, little sweetheart. Rock-a-bye, baby, on the treetop. When the bough bends, the cradle will rock. When bough breaks...
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, it's just the window curtain tripping in the wind.
Yeah, but it sure ruined my song. Say, look here, honey. If you're getting nervous about that room, this old room, that 1,000-pound bet don't mean anything to me.
I'm not nervous. Why should I be when there's nothing here to be nervous? Robert, 2 of our candles just went out.
Candles?
Yes.
Oh, the wind must have blew.
Light them again, will you? There isn't any too much light here when all of them are going.
That's a fact, they ain't. Say, Mr. Beckett borrowed my matches and forgot to give them back.
Take one of the candles that's going and relight the others for me.
That's an idea. Go on. This one went out. It's a reach for.
Well, close the window and shut out the wind that's doing it.
Yeah. There. Now they'll be all right.
Robert, there goes another candle.
Well, the wind didn't blow it out.
Not with the window closed.
Well, I wonder what...
Yeah, another's going.
That's funny. These candles just suddenly flicker out and die. There goes another.
What's causing it?
I don't know. There goes another.
Relight them quick. If you don't, we'll be in darkness.
I will, honey. Don't you be scared.
Oh, 2 more went out. There's only 3 left.
I'll get one of them and...
That one's gone now.
This one just went.
Only one's left.
Now it's gone now.
Robert, put your arms around me. Hold me tight.
Now, here I am, honey. Here I am.
What made those candles all go out?
I don't know, but there's some natural explanation for it. Don't you be scared.
I'm not. Only I can't bear this darkness. Take me by the window where the moon's shining in.
Yeah.
Quick.
Come on, we'll get in the light.
The shadows all about it, Sheriff. Such ugly shadows.
There's only shadows, Susie. This is just a plain old room. Nothing here can hurt us but our own imaginations.
I know. It isn't possible that old murderer who lost his head for strangling folks will come back here from the grave.
Of course it's not. Imagination is all the ghosts are made of.
Yes. Imagination. Just imagination.
Sounds like footsteps.
They're in this room.
No, there can't be. We'd have heard the door open. There's only one door to this room.
Something, Sheriff, that don't have to come through doors.
No, honey, no. Don't say such things.
Robert, look!
It's just a shadow.
No, it's a man without a head.
Whoever you are, keep back. I have a gun. I'll fill you full of lead.
It's moving towards us. Shoot! Don't let it touch us.
Bullets, don't stop it.
It's a dead. Come back to Earth.
It's reaching out its arms.
It's strangling hands.
For our throats.
No!
How she screamed.
So did he. Then she dropped to the floor, fainted most likely, and I made my getaway. Quick, help me out of this costume before he brings her from the room.
But Agnes is down the hall. She used to talk to you already. Oh, what a cushy game this is. A secret passage death room, candles with prepared wicks, and your ghastly headless makeup.
Not forgetting the way I built the story up. Any fool who bet he's not afraid of ghosts And the gun was tampered cartridges, made them sure it was the dead they shot at, besides ensuring me they'd use no weapons of their own. I told you this was the greatest easy money scheme I ever had.
It certainly appears so.
And this is only the first time we've worked it. With all the silly chumps there are in London, we'll soon make a fortune at it. I'm all right now. Hide that costume in the cupboard.
Right so.
Hurry. Agnes can't stall in the hall much longer.
Well, I'm with you now. Open the door.
Well, there's Agnes. George, she's alone.
Christy's aunt with her?
No. Agnes, haven't they come out yet?
No. And there hasn't been a sound from that room since they screamed. I told you this scheme was too fantastic to succeed. You frightened them, all right. But then their common sense returned. And now they're in there laughing at us.
I won't believe that. They were terrified.
Then why haven't they come out?
What's that?
What?
Listen. It's Christy's voice. He's singing.
Yes, rockabye baby. A lullaby to let us know your ghost won't spoil his beauty sleep. You terrified him?
Be still. There's something queer about that song.
What do you mean?
That singing is queer.
I'm going to find out why.
Keep away from that door, you fool.
No. There's something wrong in that room. Give me that drink, Agnes. Come on.
George, the actor boy doesn't see us. And his wife lies so still in his arms.
Oh, God. I think she's dead. Well, she was dead, all right. Dead of fright. And he was mad, a childish innocent. God, I can still hear that lullaby he sang over and over and over as he rocked her body in his arms. Beckett and I left England the next morning. I've been here in Paris ever since. 5 years.
But Beckett was dead, you say?
Yes, train wreck in Belgium. 6 months after the Christie thing happened.
Unfortunate.
Fortunately, it didn't happen sooner. The poor judge got drunk and blabbed the story. It never been known otherwise. That's how you came to hear of it, I suppose.
Indirectly, yes. But it's only recently I learned that you were Melvin.
I had to change my name. Christie's relatives were looking for me. People from his part of the States go in for vendetta, like the Corsican banditti, I've heard. But since you're American, you probably know more about Kentuckians than I do.
But I know their reputations. Christie himself is dead now.
Yes, I saw it in the papers. Died singing Rockabye Baby, I suppose. Oh, let's not talk about it anymore. I wouldn't mention the thing, only you sort of drag it from me.
You shouldn't mind discussing anything with me.
I don't. I trust you. You're my kind, a wise one, an easy money schemer. The only bit of luck I've had in the past 5 years was meeting you.
Luck for me as well. To meet such a clever, imaginative fellow who can use his wits to get what fools must work for.
Joan, will you marry me?
Marry you?
Yes, I'm mad about you. We'd make a great team with your looks and my experience. The easy money would just roll in.
Oh, Melvin, this is so sudden.
I don't blame you for laughing. I forgot I'm wearing shabby, worn-out clothes, and I'm down and out. I has been. On my word, I don't know why you even sit and talk with me in such a public place as this cafe.
If you can get back your nerve, you won't be a has-been any longer.
My nerve?
Yes. The Christie thing broke you. You've admitted since that night in England, you haven't had a bit of luck. It isn't luck that's been against you, but your mind. I'll tell you why I've met you here each day. It's because I think we would make a great team. Melvin, if you can prove to me that you're a man and not a coward, I'll go along with you. I'll marry you.
Joan, if you mean that, I'll do anything you say.
All right. Tomorrow we go to England.
I don't dare.
Nonsense. 5 years is a long time. They'll have forgotten why you ran away by now. And we're going back to live in your ancestral estate of Melvin Manor.
No.
Yes. Your scheme of a haunted room and headless ghost is the greatest I ever heard. We're going to work it for everything it's worth.
I'll never try that again.
You will. It's a perfect racket. Only a man of imagination could have planned a game like that.
Imagination. Yes, I have imagination, all right. An imagination that for 5 years has kept that room before my eyes, that's dinned it into my ears, a madman's song. You're right. It's dull. Nerve. But I can't return to that house to get it back.
All right, then. You and I'll...
No, don't say that. Oh, don't go away, Joan. I'll do anything you say.
Then you go to Melvin Manor, and I marry you, on condition that our bridal night is spent in that tower room.
Bridal night? In that tower room?
Yes. As you regain your nerve, you'll also gain a wife and partner. That appeals to my imagination. You see, I have imagination, too, dear. It's a great thing in our way.
Mind these narrow stairs, Joan. Don't want my brand new wife to have a fall. Dad, it's good to be in this old house again.
I knew you'd enjoy your return, Malvin Manor.
You're right. Make me come here. Has given me back my nerve. What a chump I was to stay away from England all these years. The Christie affair simply made the natives here believe that old room is really haunted. Good example of how ghostly legends start.
Yes, imagination needs but a grain of sand to build a mountain.
Well, here we are, dear. The tower room. My bridal night. Dad, I've waited and longed for this.
All right. How lonely it is here with all the candlelight.
It's not a very cheerful place. But it was your idea that we occupy it. Let me close the door. We're alone.
I wonder if we're alone.
Of course we are.
How can you be sure? In a room where you've seen a ghostly legend start. Where did you find Robert Christie singing Rockabye Baby?
Joan, let's not talk about that now.
I wish to talk about it for your nerves' sake. The room this is for the scheme you worked. So full of eerie shadows.
Yes, it's what gave me the idea to play on fool's imagination. What's that?
I think a shutter blew against the wall outside.
Oh, it startles me.
Take to this room. Anything might happen here, especially in the darkness.
Joan.
What? Their candle just went out.
Eh? Must be a draft.
Well, it's possible the windows are closed. There goes another.
What made them go out?
Well, perhaps their wicks have been tampered with, like those which you once used.
No, there's no reason to play such a trick on me.
Of course not. There'd be no easy money in it.
There goes another candle.
And another.
There go three at once. Where are my matches, Joan? You borrowed them. Now all the candles have gone out. Let me find the door.
What? You're not afraid to be in the dark,
Afraid? Oh, what rot. You brought me here to prove my nerve. I'll show you it's all right. Only, Joan, come here, where I can see you by this little bit of moonlight. Where are you, Joan? What's that? Joan, is it your footsteps I hear? Is it you who's walking toward me? Joan, why don't you answer me? Ah! Christie's here! I see him in the moonlight! Christie! Risen from the dead! Ah!
That's what I brought you here to see, Melvin. To see and hear the walking dead. Now you know the terror he and Susie knew. It's Robert Christie's sister whom you married, Melvin. 5 years I've searched for you until I found you to bring the only justice that would fit your crime. Go against that wall and stare at him in fear. Oh, Robert's still alive. I can't command the dead, or Susie would be with him. But you know the power of imagination now. Look at him, alive. A helpless, harmless madman whose only lucid moments are memories of horror. He and his physician have been hidden in this house for days, waiting for you to come here on your bridal night. Your bridal night. I promised you a wife and partner. Your wife is here, your partner death. So now I'm going to kill you. Turn your eyes from Robert and look into this gun. Turn your eyes and look upon it as I fire it at your heart. Say something. Look at me before I shoot. Look at me, I say. Melvin! Is that you, Doctor?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, wait.
Christie, I've come to tell you.
Now, never mind. Come in and bring that candle. All I want you to tell me is, what's the matter with this man? Here he is, leaning against this wall. Look at me, Melvin. Doctor, he fell as I touched him.
This man is dead. That gun in your hand, did you?
No. Oh, no, I didn't kill him. Out of fright. Susie did. Imagination. Imagination.
Christie, you're hysterical. You've got to pull yourself together. I don't know what's happened in this room tonight, but there's still another shock that you spare.
Shock?
Yes, your brother.
My brother? Where did Robert go? He was with me here just before I let you in.
He was with you here?
Of course. You sent him as I told you to.
Up that secret passageway when I pressed the signal button.
I couldn't save you. Before your signal came, your brother's heart stopped beating.
My brother...
Robert died 10 minutes ago. You knew his condition. His heart just stopped. That's what I came up to tell you.
But I tell you, my brother was here. Doctor.
Look. Among those shadows there.
Robert. And Susie's in his arms again. Imagination. Imagination.
You never can tell about imagination, Satan. You never can tell why it begins or why it ends. Now, you folks sit still a minute, and we'll come back and tell you about the cheerful little yarn we've got for you next week.
While we're waiting for old Nancy to return, here's a word of advice. When you buy a product to take internally, you should know what it won't do to you, as well as what it will do for you. To frequently take purgatives or cathartics weakens your system. But you need have no fear of that if you take Crucian, for it contains no harmful drugs. Crucian is absolutely safe, as your doctor will tell you. In fact, he may well be one of the thousands of doctors who prescribes Crucian to correct acidity, relieve rheumatic pain, and bring back vital energy to people, regardless of whether they're of normal weight or overweight. You yourself probably know people who've told you how Crucian has let them forget the rheumatic pains they used to have. Or perhaps you know others who've told you that Crucian corrected skin troubles from within by ridding them of secretly circulating poisons in their system. And if you've noticed a friend who has been losing unwanted fat without leaving sagging skin in its place, the chances are that Crucian is responsible. For more hundreds of thousands of people reduce safely, sanely, and surely with Crucian than by any other method. Crucian doesn't remove food before it is digested. But if that food is transformed into excess fat, then the corrective influence of Crucian goes to work. With the Crucian reducing method, you need no fatiguing exercises, no starvation diets, no uncomfortable alteration of any kind to your regular, sensible way of living. Crucian is simply a gentle corrective that aids the functioning of the system. So, whether you're fat or thin or of normal weight, you can begin to benefit immediately by taking Crucian. If you want to reduce with absolute safety, take just a half teaspoon of Crucian in hot water every morning and watch your weight come down. If you are not overweight, put just a tiny bit of Crucian in your morning coffee. As much as would cover a dime is enough. You'll soon know what happy people mean when they say they have that Crucian feeling.
Satan, next week when these folks come to see us, we're gonna take them to Chinatown, San Francisco. To Chinatown. And there we're gonna spin him our yarn of the confession. The confession.
That was The Witch's Tale with Rockabye Baby, as originally heard way back on March 15th, 1934. I'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to Classic Radio Rewind. Coming up on Tuesday, August 20th is National Radio Day. The WOTR Radio Network will celebrate this special day on Old Time Radio USA. The exact and specific programming will be determined soon. So, to make sure you don't miss this special day, set your reminder, mark your calendar, and celebrate National Radio Day with Old Time Radio USA and the WOTR Radio Network. If you have not downloaded the WOTR Radio Network app, you can do so free of charge, where you can listen to all 4 classic old-time radio stations on the go or wherever you are, free of charge. Notifications will be sent out to the app for gentle reminders of upcoming programming, specials, and marathons. If you're on social media, check us out on Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter. Also, you can keep in the know on the WOTR Radio Network website as well. Well, that wraps up this edition of Classic Radio Rewind. We hope you enjoyed it and that you join us next week for more from the golden age of radio. So, from the WOTR Radio Network and Classic Radio Rewind, this is Barry Slinker saying goodbye for now.
Classic Radio Rewind is a production of the WOTR Radio Network. For more Classic Radio Rewind, and to listen to any of the WOTR Radio Network stations, go to www.wotrradionetwork.com.